Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jay Williams, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I'm here today to introduce myself to you, to tell you why I'm running, and why I am the best choice for South Dakota. My South Dakota roots run deep. For 4 generations, my family has lived and worked in South Dakota. My great-grandfather, H.E. Williams, walked out to Gettysburg, South Dakota, which is in the north-central part of the state, and became the first mayor there. My grandfather, whose name I bear, was a World War I veteran. My grandfather, on my mother's side, was George Barnett, who was a prominent Minnehaha County commissioner. I was born in 1950, 5 years after the end of World War II. I was raised on a farm south of Gettysburg, South Dakota. My dad, Terrence Williams, fought in that war. He was a decorated fighter pilot, and he survived a German POW camp. After the war, Dad came back to Potter County and farmed there until his death in 1998. Both of my granddads and my dad were Republicans. But the Republican Party of their day bears little resemblance to the Republican Party of today. My dad's Republican Party of 1956 had a platform that contained plans to provide federal assistance for low-income communities, to protect Social Security, to provide asylum for refugees, to extend the minimum wage, to improve the unemployment benefit system so it covered more people, to strengthen labor laws so workers could more easily join unions, and to ensure equal pay for equal work regardless of sex. Those plans could easily be in a Democratic platform today. But the Republicans are opposed to all of them. That is why I am a Democrat, and I'm confident my dad would be too. My formative years as a farm boy in rural Potter County had a profound effect on me. I learned the value of rural life, where community and hard work really counts for something. I don't think there's anyone in the world who had a more interesting and enjoyable childhood than I had. But there were times when I could behave poorly. And when I behaved in any kind of a mean or uncooperative manner, my sainted mother, Marie Catherine Barnett Williams, who recently passed away, would admonish me to not be a dog in the manger. Well, I remember asking her what she meant by that. And she related the fable of the dog who couldn't eat the oats in the manger, nonetheless lay in the manger, preventing the horse from eating. With that dogged, steadfast behavior, stopping the horse from eating, both the dog and the horse starved to death. The Republican establishment's 2013 government shutdown is a classic example of dog in the manger behavior. I am running for U.S. Senate to end the dog in the manger behavior that corrupts Washington politics today. In 1968, I was awarded a U.S. Navy scholarship at the University of Wisconsin. That began my 10-year military experience. I attended the University of Wisconsin during the school year, and during the summer, I served as a midshipman. While earning my undergraduate degree at UW, I met the love of my life and my lifetime partner, Karen. Excuse me. Studied nutrition at UW, and at our first meeting, we fell in love, and we've been together ever since. During my last summer as a midshipman, I served aboard the USS Oriskany, and and wartime operations in Vietnam. That experience gave me insight into the awesome power of the U.S. Navy attack aircraft carrier in war operations. During a month-long operation from what was known as Yankton Station off the coast of North Vietnam, we spent every day, from sunup till sundown, launching jets loaded with bombs and recovering them after they had delivered their ordnance. At night, supply ships would come alongside and give us more bombs and more fuel so we could continue operations the next day. This was deadly serious business, and it left me with an appreciation of what war is and a belief that that kind of terrible power should only be used as a last resort. Graduating from UW with a degree in political science, I received a commission as a naval officer and was assigned to U.S. Navy Flight School, where I carrier qualified in a high-performance jet plane and earned my wings. I spent the next 2 years in Naples, Italy, and the 2 years after that in Virginia Beach, Virginia, serving as a search and rescue pilot. My military service gave me insight into the way the military works and empathy with the challenges that military personnel face today when serving their country. After the Navy, Carol and I volunteered for the Peace Corps and were assigned to Bogota, Colombia. Carol worked as a nutritional counselor to disadvantaged women, and I worked as a transportation consultant to the City of Bogota Health Department. We saw firsthand the problems that faced people living in the third world. The government in Colombia was rife with corruption, and they provided few public services. Sewage was not treated, and crime was rampant. At that time, Bogota was one of the most dangerous, criminal, and inhospitable cities in the world. That's why I was amazed when I learned of the Bogota change phenomenon. If you search YouTube for Bogota change, you can watch a documentary that gives you all the details. In 1994, the then head of the National University of Bogota caused a big sensation when he mooned a group of unruly students. This cost him his job. But the people of Bogota were so impressed by his actions that they elected him mayor. He took office and immediately set out to change the culture from one of accepting corruption and discord to one of cooperation and willingness to do the right thing. He fired all the corrupt traffic cops and replaced them with mimes in whiteface, who went out and passed out red cards to people doing the wrong thing and white cards to people doing the right thing. They mimed the proper behavior to the people in the streets. Sure enough, the people began to do the right thing. This man is credited with the miraculous Bogota change, where Bogota has been transformed from the city it was when Carol and I served there to a modern-day international vacation destination. You might be wondering why I am talking about silent mimes in the streets of Bogota, when what we really need is a strong voice in Washington. It is because often, especially in politics, actions speak louder than words. Many citizens have lost faith in our political system and do not participate. The Bogota change phenomenon illustrates how a single person can stimulate people to do the right thing. I want to stimulate people who have not participated in the political system to do the right thing and vote. To be the beginning of Washington change, where we send a message to Washington that the current behavior of discord and obstructionism is wrong and must be changed to one of cooperation, respect, and compromise. We can moon Washington to show our dissatisfaction with the congressional establishment by electing me to the U.S. Senate. I returned to college and earned a Master of Science degree in Computer Science from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois. Texas Instruments recruited me as a software engineer to their plant in Dallas, Texas. So Carol and I moved to Dallas, where our first son, Ben, was born in 1982. Up until that time, my life had been wonderful. It was filled with exciting and interesting experiences. From the adrenaline rush of carrier operations in a jet plane, to the thrill of experiencing the beauty of Michelangelo's Pietà in the entrance to the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, my life was amazing. But nothing compared to the miraculous event of the birth of that child. It was nothing short of life-changing. I was fortunate to have that experience twice more in my life, and I know many of you can relate to that experience. I was a different man from that day forward. My perspective changed. I no longer saw the world as mine, I saw it as my children's world. To this day, I see the world like that. I feel a responsibility to my children and to the rest of the people in the world. That is why I am willing to take on the responsibility of running for the U.S. Senate. It would certainly be easier to relax and enjoy the fruits of my many years of labor, but I can't do that. I am prepared to do whatever I can to ensure our country remains the greatest country in the world. I want to ensure my children and your children can raise their children and their children in a world that is even more awesome than the world my parents gave me. I cannot sit idly by and watch our elected legislators ignore consequences of man's actions that are warming our planet, perhaps to the point of destruction. I cannot sit by and watch our government rig the economic system so that all of our nation's wealth goes to a tiny number of very rich people until finally the entire system collapses. But back in 1982, I had a more immediate focus. That little baby with his glowing mother motivated me like never before. My work at TI was challenging and provided a good income, but I was motivated. So when my team leader at TI mentioned an opportunity in California's Silicon Valley with a high-tech startup company, I jumped at the opportunity. Carol, my new son Ben, and I moved to Cupertino, California to work at a venture capital-funded high-tech business. That was an extremely interesting and exciting time to be living and working in the Silicon Valley. But the excitement and challenge of my work paled in comparison to the thrill of the birth of my second child, Ed, in 1984. Shortly after Ed was born, my boss at the time left the company and formed a new company with another entrepreneur. By this time, I was interested in being an entrepreneur myself. So when they came to me and offered me to be their first employee, I jumped at the opportunity and joined the new business. That was an education in itself. Initially, I worked to develop a software product for the new company. Once the software was completed, we started shipping products, started selling it and shipping it. My job responsibilities expanded. I duplicated diskettes, took phone calls, took orders, shipped out product, did customer support. That is the nature of a startup company. Everybody does everything. Then, in 1986, my third child was born. Tina was a bouncing baby girl, and her arrival was just as thrilling and as breathtaking as the first two. To this day, when I look at photos of Carol, that beautiful baby, and those two cherub-like boys, it brings a tear to my eye. I can't kid you, those three posed many challenges as they grew up, but oh, what a thrill. By this time, Ben was reaching school age. Although things were going well for us in California, both Carol and I were uneasy with the directions the schools were taking. Proposition 13, California's property tax freeze, was just beginning to have a negative effect on the schools. I learned that South Dakota had just created a Ready Fund loan program to encourage new business development. Carol and I discussed the many advantages of living in South Dakota, including the great schools and the great environment for raising children. Not being a person to avoid risks, and with the prospect of raising my children in what I knew to be a great place, I quit my high-paying job, took my life savings and the profit from selling my house, and with Carol, Ben, Ed, and Tina, moved to South Dakota. What a great move. South Dakota is a wonderful place, and my family has thrived here. With the help of the Ready Fund loan, my life savings, and a lot of hard work, I got my company started, and today we are in our 30th year of operation. All three of my children graduated from Yankton High School and went on to earn college degrees. And now my two sons are working as software engineers, and my daughter is a middle school principal. Carol and I have participated in many community events, and we've made many great friends along the way. Which brings us to today, and my run for the U.S. Senate. My mother's admonition not to be a dog in the manger is especially relevant today. Although I don't know him personally, I believe John Thune is a good man. Unfortunately, he has become part of the Washington establishment. During his 18 years in the Congress, his party, with his participation, has been responsible for shutting down the federal government. This dog-in-the-manger behavior is destructive and damaging to the United States. Just last week, the Republican-controlled Congress refused to even look at President Obama's most recent federal budget. When Justice Scalia died a few days ago, Mitch McConnell, with John Thune standing right beside him, promised to obstruct any nominee the president might put forth. The current Congress has been unwilling to even consider working with the president. Senator Thune, as our senior senator, has done nothing to combat this dog-in-the-manger behavior, and as a longtime member of the Republican establishment, actually encourages it. Back in the 1950s, Republican President Eisenhower was responsible for one of the largest public works projects in our nation's history. The interstate highway system has touched every system, if not directly as a motorist, then indirectly, because everything we buy has been on that system at one time or the other. Modern-day Republicans would never even consider such a project. The Republicans of my dad's day were dedicated to the advancement of our nation. Today's Republicans seem concerned only with doing anything possible to obstruct the sitting president. For our political system to work, all sides must work together to seek common ground and compromise to implement projects that benefit all the people. Back in the 1930s, President Roosevelt told Americans, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." That statement is true today as it was then. As Americans, we must be brave and face the challenges of climate change, income inequality, and a dangerous world with bold and brave actions. We must not succumb to bigotry. We must not ignore facts. We must not ignore facts, or worse yet, make up things and present them as if they're true. We are never stronger than when we use our strength to help those in need. It's not in the financial wealth we acquire, it is in the combined, collective American spirit. We don't need to make America great again, we need to make it greater than it is. You can't do that with government shutdowns, wars, and policies that discriminate against our fellow Americans. By funding our government, by mending and expanding our infrastructure, by providing quality public education, by ensuring that our civil rights are respected, and most of all, by working together and being respectful of one another. I understand that this race is a real challenge for me. My opponent is well established with the National Republican Party, and he has nearly unlimited funds. I'm not well known, but I am motivated. I offer the people of South Dakota a new voice that will send a clear message to Washington that South Dakota is not happy with the congressional status quo. We cannot continue with policies that redistribute our nation's wealth from the working people of this country to the richest 1%. We cannot continue in the environment, the damage we are doing to it by spewing greenhouse gases into it. We cannot allow fear and hatred to be the emotions that drive us. My dad and mom worked hard to make a good life for their children. I am following in their example by working as hard as I can to make this a better world for my children and yours. I am committed to make Washington change. I offer the people of South Dakota a real choice for change in Washington. There is a real contrast between John Thune and me. John Thune has been a political operative for his entire adult life. For 18 of the past 20 years, he's been a congressman. He is part of the Washington Republican establishment. He stands with the Republican establishment, refusing to even consider anything President Obama proposes. With the Republican establishment, he is refusing to execute his constitutionally mandated duty to consider a new Supreme Court justice nominee. I have served my country as a naval officer, and I have volunteered for the Peace Corps. Except for my time in the Navy and the Peace Corps, I have worked in the private sector. I am an entrepreneur, and I've started a high-tech business right here in South Dakota. I have in-depth technical experience with a master's degree in computer science and over 35 years working in the high-tech industry. I love South Dakota. And after living and working all over the world, I chose South Dakota as the place to raise my children. I have a depth of experience that is second to none. And that experience, combined with my motivation, makes me the best choice to be your next U.S. Senator. I ask for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Y'all come back now. Here.